Hello, everybody, and welcome to Innis and Outs. This is my interview-style show that is entirely based around the pun that I get to come up with for the name. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another week. I am joined this week by Mitch Beard of Sister Act and Team Iceland in that order, I think is fair to say.
I need to say it the other way around, just in case I don't make the team next year. So let's say Team Iceland and then Sister Act 40K. Yeah, nice to see you again, Innis.
Thank you very much for being with me, Mitch. I have been on Mitch's podcast before. It was an absolute pleasure. He sent me a pin. We don't have those. I'll give him some dice when we get them. I suppose that'll kind of make up for it. For anybody who doesn't know this show, this is my interview style show. We have 30 questions to get to know a 40K celebrity. I think Mitch will not approve of the title, but I think he is one. He certainly hangs out with enough of them. He hangs out with enough of them that I think we just have to, by proxy, call him one. The elevator pitch of this show is I once read a message that was something along the lines of, we're the number one show to listen to if you want to know what Jim Vasel's favorite pastry is. And I try to live my life by that mantra of, I want to know what everybody in 40K's favorite pastry is. We're here to answer that kind of question. So without further ado, let's start with question one, which is the easiest one. What's your name and a brief description of who you are and what you do?
Hold on. So you're not going to ask my favorite pastry? Or is that like...
That's the last question.
That's the grand finale. All right, so
that's
I get 29 questions to figure that one out?
Yep.
I forgot your first question, though. My name is Mitch Beard. I don't remember the rest of it.
Brief description of who you are and what you do in 40K.
I am... I've been playing 40K since I was like... It's a good start. I was playing 40K like in my local club as like a teenager, and I picked up sisters because they looked cool, and I was told they were garbage and no one could ever win with them, which immediately attracted me deeply to the faction. That has turned into a lifelong fixation. So I kind of picked up 40K again in like 8th edition after dropping off like 5th, 6th. Got into it, brought back my old sisters, got really into it, started a show called Sister Act 40K because I figure if I've been playing the same faction for like ever, surely I must have something to say about it. And so, yeah, I play sisters. I play competitive. You can find me on the London competitive scene at a lot of the majors or on my show. So there you go.
Perfect.
That's
and
me.
we will have a link to
I think I answered it correctly
for anybody who is not familiar with it before, because it's a good show.
You can't just search Sister Act. You'll find Whoopi Goldberg. You need the 40K. That's our differentiator.
Yeah, and you're very lucky that she made 39,000 less films than that.
She made a lot of films, though.
Okay. Is there a funny story about how you got into 40K? The answer can be no, by the way, if that's...
Not really. No, I was just like your stereotypical, like, nerdy 14-year-old who, like, hung out at the local game store, was, like, bad at Magic, and then found, like, the Warhammer nerds in the room adjacent and wanted to know what's up. I don't really have a great origin story for getting into the hobby at all.
Fair. It's pretty similar to mine. Everybody's got their own path. Some people are like, yeah, so I was playing this game when I was really good at it for a long time, competitive, and then I started playing this garbage game in the in-between, and now I play that one all the time instead of the one that I made money on, and I'm not sure what happened either. And those are the guys that I'm trying to catch with that question, because those stories are great. But that's fine. Everybody has their own boring ones, us included. That's fine. How did you make the jump from casual to competitive?
Oh, that's a good question. So when I was a kid, I just played in my local game store called The Only Game in Town, which later became famous for like Magic, making a bunch of Magic players. But no, I wasn't really good then. And then when I came back into an 8th edition, get this, I had only ever played Basement Hammer or Garage Hammer with friends, ever and always, or like local shop Hammer. I had never played any remotely competitive event. And quite literally the first competitive event I ever went to of any size, like RTT upwards, the first event ever was actually Nova 2017. So I like walked into this hall with 255 other Warhammer players all playing the same game. And I was just blown away by there were so many other, like I remember this vividly, walking through the front door of the hotel, and to my left were 3 guys talking about Bane Blades. And I was like, I've never been in a place where Bane Blades is a casual conversation topic just around me. I was like, I have found my people, and I had a blast. I went 3-1, and I got into like a good bracket because Nova brackets you after the first games, and then you play the last 4. And then I got pancaked 1 and 3 because I didn't belong there. But I got to see what it was like to play Warhammer like well and competitively, and like the level of focus that goes into it and the complexity of the game. And I was like, this is this is something special. And then I just kind of like ramped up from there, trying to get better, doing more events, stuff like that.
So you got a taste of it early and just full addiction from there, basically.
I mean, yeah, but like it wasn't a taste, it was like a blast from a fire hose. It was like my first ever experience. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that again.
That's fair. Yeah. So do you still play casually at all? And if you do you have any difficulty going back to playing casually if you do, or if you just cold turkey, just competitive now?
That's a super good question. So, all right, my time is limited. I am I am a father of 2 kids. I have a fairly demanding job. So like I don't have much time to do things that aren't those responsibilities. So I'm very careful with where I spend my time. It's like I have a hobby. My hobby is Warhammer. Everybody knows this is my hobby and we carve out time for it. It's like part of almost like my identity, right? It's like it's an important part of how I choose to spend my time. I like to play competitively. So most of the time I try to find those kinds of games. If I go to local club, I'm going to try to find a player who wants to get a good game in, and I'll give them a good game. And maybe I'll make my list a little bit less competitive, but I'll still try really hard to win with it. So I'm like always kind of exercising that muscle. So it's kind of hard to step out of it. But I do like making stupid lists, which is a nice minigan. So like, okay, I'm going to play someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So I'll bring 5 immolators and let's see what's up. Like I'll do that kind of a thing. But I can't like not play to win. Right? Like I can't not see the objective and the game and the score and the secondaries and be like trying to plot my way through. And I think that's okay because it's just how I choose to optimize my time. And that's just my slice of Warhammer, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're not alone in that. There are a lot of people who play 40k very similarly. Once you go into it, it's kind of a mindset switch and it's hard to go back. There are some people who do, and I don't know if I envy them, but I respect them for being able to switch that off, but not for me either.
Yeah, like my version of this is I like asking people this question. I know it's your question. This is one of mine. I know your answer, but would you rather play one game 10 times or 10 games one time? And usually I ask this in a board game context. And almost everyone who plays Warhammer would rather play one game 10 times because of the sheer depth and complexity of it. And I think that's just like the way I'm wired. So I assume you're the same, Innes.
Yeah, unless you're talking about one game of 40k, in which case I'd rather play 10 different games of 40k, but rather than playing the same game 10. So I guess there's granularity in that as well. Okay, have you ever made an event decision around hobby requirements?
No. I am not a hobby. I enjoy painting as like a relaxation thing, but I don't do it very often because again, I don't have so much time and I prefer to play. What ends up happening is I commit to a list that I think is good, and then I kill myself to get that list over the line. My first and only LVO was in 2020, 3 months before the end of the world. And the new book had dropped. So like we had just gotten the book and like the battle box with like the plastic models in it for the first time. And I opened this book and I'm like, oh God, infantry are good. Oh God, Valor's Heart infantry are good. Oh God, I think the right list is 130 infantry models. So I rebased about 110 models and put together the last 20, from the plastic box, slicing off Seraphim arms and putting Zephyr arms on because Zephyr wasn't released yet. It was like before that period when the rest of the kits came out. And I batch/speed painted about 70 infantry models in about a month. And if you've ever seen a Sisters model, it broke me. And I didn't touch a paintbrush for about 4 months afterwards. But no, that is my approach to the hobby. Commit to something stupid and then somehow do it anyway.
Cool. So the reason that question there is it catches some people it catches both ends of it. Like I've not gone to an event because my army wasn't painted, or I submitted this terrible list because I really wanted to use my centerpiece unit. You get all spectrum of that. You interpreted that as, have I ever submitted a suboptimal list because I couldn't paint it? No, I break myself.
Yeah,
I appreciate
the list was also garbage, by the way. It wasn't
actually no, I did hear you say. I'm like, wasn't that book like Codex for Pension Bloody Rose?
Well, it was. No one had ever played anything with the book. It was like almost the first event of any size to run the new codex. So we were all just doing different weird stuff, and like all the sister players found each other. And 130 words Valor's Heart infantry, when they ignored AP2 wholesale, worked a lot of the time, but not all of the time, and they didn't kill anything. So
I mean, that was the Leviathan, you're right. So you weren't ever winning that game.
No. I went into like triple Iron Hands. Oh, what were the tanks called? The big floaty ones.
Repulsor Executioners.
Repulsors. Yeah, Executioners. I went a triple Executioner on a Sky Shield landing pad, and I just walked 130 models at him, and he killed them for a while. And it was like a 3-point game, but he got me in the end because I just like died a little too early before I got across the board. It was certainly an experience.
Perfect. I think you've already answered my next question, but which is, what's the worst example of the grind or lazy bastarding that you've put yourself through? But I think painting 100 and getting 130 sisters ready for a new codex for an event a month later is probably the best example of the grind that you're going to have. So unless you've got a better
I
one,
rebased 110 models too, in addition to painting 60 because they were all on 25s right until that box set came out in 2019, November 2019. So I had that much time until LVO.
D-Day for sisters.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could add one unit to the game, what would it be and what role would it fill?
Sisters Terminators. I thought Paragons were going to be our Terminators. No, I thought they were going to be our Terminators. And then they gave us this weird vehicle thing. I wanted Terminators. So there we go. Sisters Terminators.
Fair enough.
Real ones.
Yeah. Fair enough. If you could remove an army from the game, what would it be and why?
I could remove a whole army from the game?
Whole army.
Tau. Has to be Tau. Look, I get the aesthetic. It's really cool. It's like Gundam Wing in 40K. I love it. And I've seen some beautiful painted armies. But like fundamentally, it's a broken army. Like it's fast and shooty. Like either it's awful to play against or it's a walk in the park. There's like no balance where you could not be one of those two things and is like a healthy contributor to the meta. And I think that's broadly been true since about forever. I've hated Triptide with 40 drones. I've hated double planes. Like I've hated crisis suits with all the indirect when that was still a thing. Like I've hated every version of a good Tau list. Just get rid of them. Just get rid of them.
I don't know how many complainers you'll have on that one, but that's fair.
Only Tau players.
Only Tau players. Yeah. Okay.
No
What's the dodgiest travel plan you've ever made for a 40K event?
Ooh. Dodgiest travel plan. I don't know if there's an obvious one for this. Flying out to LVO was pretty straightforward. A lot of the tournaments were pretty regional. See, the UK is this weird thing. I'm gonna sidestep your question and complain about Brits instead.
Go for it.
The UK does this thing where if they drive for more than 30 minutes in any direction, they call it like a long haul drive that takes them an eternity. So like I'm like, sure, I'll drive like 3.5 hours to Manchester, 4 hours to Manchester for an event. Why not? That sounds fine. And meanwhile, like everyone there's like, oh my God, I came from London and I died almost 3 times on the way here. So
I'm with you on that one.
Really.
Being in Scotland, we travel to everything. It's like
you have to commit.
Yeah. I get it, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a good answer for you. I just replaced my answer with complaining about Brits. So
yeah, that's
right.
Again, these ones catch anybody who's got the WTC in Eastern Europe almost always has a good one. So
I only went once, most recently
to
Belgium. That wasn't very hard.
Pretty easy, right? Our trip to Belgium still ended up being sketchy because we ended up flying to the other airport, which was not pleasant. But yeah.
You mean not the one that is the international airport 20 minutes away from
the one that's an hour and 30 minutes away. Yeah. And on the wrong side of Brussels. Yeah, we did that one. What's the funniest or worst thing that's ever happened to you while traveling for a 40K event, and if not dodgiest?
What, like in the act of traveling?
Yeah, in the act of traveling.
While I was
good road trip, bad road trip, horrible airport experience.
I think the can I do best or just worst?
You do either way.
Dude, we got this Airbnb for WTC this year with Team Iceland. Like one of the guys in the team, like everyone has a job on the team, and one guy in the team, his name's John King. His job is to figure out accommodation. He is phenomenal at it. And he found this ridiculous Airbnb like right by the venue that was like almost like the whole house was just like a hotel, and everyone, there were like 8 of us, and we like had 5 or 6 rooms between us, and it was all beautiful and gorgeous and a big back garden. So coolest thing was that Airbnb, and then like cooking up meals and stuff. And another guy was a chef. Like that was his job. He was a chef. So he was in charge of food.
Picked, right?
Yeah, it's good a reason as any as far as I'm concerned. Team morale matters, right? That was probably the coolest thing we did. It's sketchy. No, I don't think I've had any like crazy sketchy things. I maybe need to go to like other WTCs.
Far too much of an adult for the questions that I wrote as a 20-year-old.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Pack your bags in advance, people. Have a travel kit ready to go.
Don't leave your passport in your shoe. Okay.
What's your favorite thing? Reference?
It is, of course. I was with Val when it happened.
Oh, wow.
Val, I stayed in I stayed in a hotel room with Val that weekend. Uh, what's your favorite thing to eat for dinner at a tournament?
Ooh. Okay, so it super depends. If it's day one and I am in contention, like I'm 3-0 or whatever, like I'm doing fine, then it's like something fairly light, like a chicken Caesar salad, because it's not too heavy, clears the mind. You don't want that many calories in your body anyway, so you can stay sharp if it's like that. But if it's like, if I don't think I'm in contention or it's day two, the correct thing is garbage food at a dive bar when you're getting drunk with your friends. That's the play.
You can do that when you're 3-0 as well, by the way, just to let you know. It's not stopped too many of my wins.
See, Innes, you got to be precise here. You can do that just fine because you are like 19 or something.
14, something like that.
My body punishes me when I make these choices. Now I still make them, but I suffer.
I was in Manchester. I remember you making those choices.
We did make those choices. Manchester was a good night. It was a good night.
I'm looking forward to next year. Something special. Okay. Do you drink at events? And if you do, what's your go-to drink?
Again, I like to play competitively. I'm not trying. I'm not good enough to win LGT, right? Like that's okay. But I want to do the best that I can do. And a lot of how I feel about the game is like I will get frustrated if I perform poorly because I feel like I could have given my opponent a better experience. Like I want to give them a tough matchup, right? Like a fair but tough matchup. And so for that reason, I don't drink alcohol until I'm like done with my last game of the day because I don't want to like damage the experience for me or my opponent. Maybe if it's like the last game, like if it's game 5 out of 5 and we're both 2-2 and like it doesn't really matter, sure, I'll have a beer halfway through the game. But generally, no, I stick it to afterwards. And then I rate it.
This includes afterwards. Like what's your go-to when you're at the bar afterwards on the Saturday night or the Sunday night?
Yeah, I mean, I just like a good like crisp lager after a long day of playing Warhammer, right? Like something a little refreshing. That's probably my play. That's very boring answer.
You're going to be too much. I
gave you a good answer, but it was to a different question. So
you're going to be too much of an adult for the next one as well. Do you have any funny event drinking stories? I'm guessing no.
I have a really good one. It's actually the reason I got on my podcast. Do you want that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So it's LVO 2020. Again, I've done 2 Novas at this point, maybe 3 Novas at this point, but I had never done an LVO, right? Like Nova's a big event, but it's 256 players. That year was the biggest year LVO ever was because it was right before the pandemic. It cracked like 900 people attending the event, right? And so we go to this event afterwards. So I know by this point, I know a bunch of people online from like various forums, like the Best in Faction Discord has a great online community, and I had met some of them. And one of the guys there named Tyler Agee, who's a wonderful human being, pulls me in. It's like, hey, we're going to go to Caesars, the Bacchanali or something like the all-you-can-eat super expensive buffet. Like, come on, we'll have a good time. I'm like, I know you, Tyler. Yeah, sure. Like, let's go do this. So we do this, pick a few people along the way. We get there. It's like $90 or $100 for an all-you-can-eat buffet. It was like not a cheap choice, but it's like, whatever. It's like, I'm here. Let's go do it. Let's go all in. So I sit at the table with Tyler, and other people start sitting down. And they include the Falcon, Peter the Falcon. He sits down and he brings Val because they're doing Stat Center at the time. And then, what is his name? The guy who started Art of War podcast. John
Damaris.
John Damaris sits down at the table next to me. And then the guy who, I'm forgetting everybody's name right now. The guy who does Bow of Lost Souls podcast sit down.
Good boy.
No. The one that everyone knows, whose name I'm forgetting. Paul Murphy sits down.
Paul Murphy, yeah.
Paul Murphy sits down. And like then Adam Camilleri sits down at this table. And quite literally, every freaking podcaster I'd ever listened to just about sits down at this table because they all start finding the other ones and joining in, right? So it's like all of the 40K celebrities and Tyler and this quite literally random 3-3 scrub sitting at the table named Mitch Beard, and everyone's introducing themselves to me, and I'm like, they're like, oh hi, my name's Paul Murphy, and I'm like, oh hi, my name's Mitch, and what I'm thinking is I already knew that from the sound of your voice. Like for everyone at this table. And so I get pretty drunk, right, because I'm the 3-3 scrub and I'm having a blast getting to meet all these people. So that's my favorite story. Like I got to get drunk with all these guys. And the outcome of this story is I go back and my wife's like, "Oh, adorable. You've got like, like a celebrity crush going on here." But you realize these people aren't celebrities, right? You realize they're just like idiots with microphones and like, you could do this. And I was like, I could do this. I could be an idiot with a microphone too. And that, honest to God, was the origin story of Sister Act 40K. It's going to that dinner and then my wife telling me they're not that special. You could do it too. And that's what launched my show.
And that's absolutely true, guys. Anybody could do this. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
Doing it well, quite hard, but doing it, not that hard.
Different story. Yeah.
Back in the day, you just did it and you were doing it well because there were 4 of you. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not any good, but I invite people who are, and then they make good content. That's the trick.
All right. Back to actual gaming questions. Did you win your first tournament game?
No, but can I tell you all about it? I remember.
Yeah, that's the idea.
All right. I absolutely did not win. Remember, my first ever tournament game of any size was the first round of Nova 2017. I walk up to this. So here's what I've got. I got a sisters list, and this is like. This is Index Sisters. And so I had like a couple of Exorcists because they could get to a 4 vulnerable save and they could get to hitting on 2s. And I had a Knight Errant because I thought having a big Meltagun was cool and on brand. I was in the year, it was the year of Knights. It was the year when Knights had a 3 vulnerable save and the Castell and everything. And there were Knights on every table. And I was the only Knight Errant at the entire event because it was a trash Knight. But still, it was fine because it was still a Knight at that time. So I'm like, going in, don't know what I'm doing, and I go up against a Nurgle player, and I'm like, "Oh, Nurgle, I hear those guys are tough. We'll see how I do." And he puts like 27 or 30 plague flies on the side, like those like little demon guys riding the big flies.
Yeah, the plague drones.
And
yeah.
Plague drones, yeah. And he goes first, and he moves all of it max distance right towards me. And I go, okay, well, I probably kill about half these things and then we'll have a scrap afterwards. And I open up with all my exorcists and all my guns, my melta guns and all that stuff. And I kill 4 of them. And I remember thinking, this isn't going to go well. And then the next
it's a lot less than half, isn't it?
My entire army was in combat with blight drones. First ever competitive game of any kind. And I lost that one real bad because that's what happens when your army can't kill those things. And I'll never forget that experience of just being absolutely pancaked my first ever game. And then I won 3 in a row. So it was all right. But that was a great experience.
I lost my first tournament game as well, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Everybody starts somewhere.
Awesome.
Did you win your most recent tournament game?
No, because my most recent tournament game was round 5 of LGT a couple of weeks ago, and it ended my run. I went 4-0, and then I went into Dick Vanderhart's Necrons, whom I proceeded to lose to 93-96. So I did not win my latest game, sadly. You were there. You saw it, man.
I was. I know both these stories already. It's fine.
It was a heartbreaker. Yeah.
But did you have fun?
Oh my God, it was one of the best games of my life. Honestly, truly. So Dick and I are like trying to figure out what we're going to do. And we have 15 minutes to play the last 2 battle rounds. We're both 4-0. The winner will go into the shadow round. The loser will be done. And in 15 minutes, we play 2 full battle rounds together, giving ourselves every like little reasonable thing to make sure the game flowed. And that's almost impossible to do with anyone who's not a class act. So great game.
Good.
Great human.
Yeah, I do like the Dutch guys. Okay. If you could play any player in the world tomorrow, who would you pick?
Ooh, John Lennon.
You can give a reason or...
Oh, he's been on my show a couple times. He's a wonderful human being, and I think he's one of the best players in the world. Put that all together, I'd love to get a game with him. I got to play Jack Harpster at WTC, so I got to, like, he would have been the other one on my list. But he already pancaked me, so I wanted to get the beating by John Lennon too, to kind of like continue round that one out. Yeah.
Do you think anyone would pick you?
No idea. No idea. Maybe. I mean, people like my show, so I might want to like see if I'm like actually ridiculous in person as I am on air. I'll say yeah, probably. Good.
That's self-confidence. Do you have a hype song for tough games, or just in general?
Thunderstruck by AC/DC.
Cool. The next question was, are you willing to admit what it is? But Mitch is just right out there with no shame.
Would anyone say yes, but then not say what it is? That's weird.
But
not the whole song, just the ramp up. You just need to start.
Yeah, that's
Like
fine.
when they start singing, it's kind of boring, but the da na 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 dun da. That's the good part.
That's fair. You have been given captaincy of a 5-man team for a team event of your choice. What's your dream 5-player lineup?
Ooh. Do I have to play, or can I pick 5 players who are better
You're
than me?
playing as well, yeah. It's you and 4 other
Okay.
players.
Me and 4 other players.
Let's go with you can't pick your team Iceland guys because you're already on a team with them as well.
I know. Well, also I'd be trying to curry favor
Yeah,
to make sure
you'd
I make
also
the
have to
team
pick
next year.
4 of the 7, and I don't want to put you in that position of
I-
having to say that you're not picking Yoko. So
I mean, I picked Yoko. He's really, really good at 4K.
no, let me insult him. It's fun.
I pick a bunch of UK players who I haven't had a chance to actually like interact closely with yet. Like I'd want to see you in action. I want to see Stephen Box in action. I met him once or twice. He seemed like a lovely human. I'd love to see like be on a team with him and get to experience that. There's 2 right there. Let's take Vic Vijay. He seems like a stand-up person. If I'm going on the British tournament circuit of people who I'd love to play with, we'll put him on there. And I need one more. Oh, Brody Middleton, who is my one-way arch nemesis in competitive 40K. That's my 4 people who I'd be on the team, just so I get some chance to like know those guys better and like play some 40K with them.
I'm 2 for 2 for being picked. Hell yeah.
I mean, I know how you drink. I'm impressed. I want to see how you push models around the table and see if you're half as good.
We'll get a game one day, mate. I promise. Okay. What's the crib notes of the best game of 40K you've ever played?
I think it was that game that I just played against Dick at round 5 LGT. I mean, it was like 93-96 loss. It was down to the wire, down to the very last turn. We pulled tricks on each other. We both pulled off janky plays. I played almost perfectly. And it was just a really tough match. I feel like the best match has to be a close loss. Or like maybe like a 1-point win. I feel like has to be your best match if you're giving an honest answer. So it's got to be that. It's got to be losing round 5 and the 5-0 by 3 points to a friend. That has to be the game.
Yeah, I feel like that the answer to that comes in kind of 3 forms. It's a close loss, a scrape win, or a game that won a tournament that really mattered to you. Those are kind of the only ones I feel like you can really give an answer of that for.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, it's always a super interesting one. It's good that it's your most recent game as well, so it's fresh in your memory.
Yeah, I could go play by play, but I don't think that's the point of this one.
No, not particularly, but that's fine. Do you want to tell the brief story of the unluckiest of the terrible fight?
From that game?
Yeah, because I like that.
So I have 10 novitiates, and their job is to charge 3 bikes, 3 Necron bikes, Tomb Blades, and end the charge on 2 objectives. That is their job. There are 10 of them. I go ahead and charge in, and I look at Dick, and I'm like, "You want to Overwatch?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't have even thought about that. Yeah, sure, I'll Overwatch. Why not?" So he overwatches. He's overwatching on 5s because of some reason. Kills 5 of them in Overwatch with 3 bikes. Innes, you helpfully walked over later and showed me a calculator on Math Hammer saying there was a 1.6% likelihood of killing 5 or more guys in Overwatch. So that was cool. It's just, I don't even know how that happened, but it happened. And then I charged in. No problem. I still got 5 models. I know how to play Warhammer. I spread them out. I had models to share. No problem. I kill none of them, of course, because that's how this story goes. And then on the swing back, he gets 2 wounds through with 3 models. And that's fine. That's fine. I have a miracle die showing a 4. I have a miracle die showing a 4. No, I got 3 wounds through. So I failed the first one. Okay, that one's done. That's fine. No, I got the second one. I've got a miracle die showing a 4, so I'll pass the third one. All I have to do is pass 1 4-up save. I fail it. I CP reroll it. I fail it. Of course I fail it. And then the last one doesn't matter. So I go down to 3 models, down from my original 10, the charged Tomb Blades. And that is 1 model too short to hold both objectives they were supposed to hold, which meant I held one of them. And in the most important game of my professional 40K career against Necrons, I handed him a 12 a 12 on primary round 2. And that was just so heartbreaking that was the whole I
as a reminder, how much did you lose that game by?
3 points. 3 points.
Yeah. Sorry, Mitch. Moving on.
It maybe turn it into high gear though. I went into the highest gear possible, like full aggro mode. Like that was the reminder. It's like no, you can't play the game.
You gotta get on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
What lesson do you never seem to learn in 40K?
I underestimate psychic damage all of the time. I always think, like, how many mortals can they really do? And then the answer is like 25 mortals. And then I think, but I had a chant for a hymn that would turn off all spell damage, and I didn't take it in this list. And here I am taking 25 mortals. Why did I do this again? So that's my answer every time. Everyone tells me not to. I ignore them, and then I go up against a list that just kills me in the psychic phase. So it's my hobby.
Perfect. The other lesson is obviously that you should just not play sisters, but you'll never learn that one.
Nope. Nope.
What lesson do you desperately wish other people would learn in 40k?
Ooh, that's a really good one. What type of people? Beginner people, expert people?
Yes.
Okay, here's the most important lesson to learn. I want to move away from anything tactical. Most important lesson to learn is that 40k is fundamentally a game and a social contract, and you have an obligation to your opponent to give them a good experience in your shared 3 hours together as players. And everything else is secondary to that. That is my most fervent belief, and I hope other people would pick that one up too. I think most people do, but unfortunately, maybe too many people don't.
I don't know, man. Sometimes I really just want to table you in 30 minutes and go to the bar.
Yeah, see, Innes, that's where you're wrong, and I wish you would learn that 40k is a social contract between two people, and that is the highest, most important fact of it.
No. 40k is a game where there is a winner and a loser, and the most important thing is to be the winner.
Like I said, it's a wish, Innes. It's not a guarantee. I can't make that happen for everybody.
That's good. I'm just making sure we're on different pages about this. Is there something about your 40k career that you've always wanted to brag about but have never been able to do so?
That I've always because I never achieved it?
No. Just something you've done that you've just never had an opportunity to talk about. You've just it just never came up, or
I'm like really proud of getting to make WTC this past year. Like I thought it was really cool when I got invited, and then when I actually got to do the event, it made me realize just how many great players there were in the room. And then I also performed perfectly well in that environment. Like I thought I was going to be way outclassed, and I really wasn't. And it was very positively surprising. So I'd say it's that. It's being able to say you know what, I'm actually a good Warhammer player. I don't like to brag about myself. It makes me feel uncomfortable. But I am actually.
But I'm asking you so.
Yeah, I am provably a good Warhammer player, and I don't really talk about it very much because I don't like to. But it is, it is a cool thing. So.
Good.
And I almost made the shadow round by 3 points.
That's it.
LGT.
Is there a 40k story you've always wanted to tell but never had the opportunity?
The one I love to tell. I don't even think I may not have even told this on my.
No, not one that you've always you loved it. One you've never been able to tell.
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
I'm okay. I don't have any shame, and I talk in front of a microphone for my hobby. I'm all out.
Dude, that one on other podcasts is not as great, but some people have one.
Yeah.
What's the one you always tell?
Oh, I mean, there's just so many good stories you can tell, right? That's the fun of 40k. But the one is the one I just told you, that I landed into the podcaster table completely by accident, a 3/3 scrub. I think that's just such a cool story. My origin story of my show. So I'll use that one. That's my favorite.
That's fair. And finally, the piece de resistance. What is your favorite pastry?
A Krispy Kreme donut, just the regular glazed one. Everything else detracts from the perfection of the glazed Krispy Kreme donut, like the rest of their line.
Fair enough. It's a plain answer for Mitch, the sisters and only sisters player. So I guess that kind of makes sense.
So I grew up in New Jersey, and so I can give you a story for this too. It's not my story, but in New Jersey, there's no Krispy Kremes because some asshole bought the rights to Krispy Kreme in New Jersey and then didn't exercise them. So they're all over the US, but they're not in the state where I grew up. And so it was a vaguely magical experience when I discovered one elsewhere. And it's just kind of stuck in my head as the magical donut, so much better than Dunkin' Donuts, which is the other one you see all over New Jersey. So there we go.
Fair enough. Mitch, is there anything you would like to plug before I jump away and let you get on with your evening of what appears to be painting?
I mean, I think I plugged 45 times already, but I have a show. It's called Sister 40K. My co-host Rob and I talk about, guess what? Just sisters, only sisters, everything sisters all the time. Shockingly, that's still plenty to talk about, but it's one of the more in-depth experiences you can have in 40K
Yeah,
podcasts.
they've done an episode on half of every data sheet. So they do one episode just on the data sheet and one of the special rules. They're really stretching it, guys.
Our record was 3 episodes on the Mortifier alone. That's our current record in 8th edition.
Well, one on each of the weapon options and one on the general unit.
Different lists and how they use them in different ways to achieve, sisterly victory. Yeah.
So if you want to hear literally everything there is to know about the Sisters Codex, Mitch is your guy. Go and check him out. Thank you very much, Mitch, for being with us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been Innocent Outs, episode 2 with Mitch Beard of Sister Act, Team Iceland, and Sister Act. This has been out for all the patrons on, it'll be Friday, the date 21st. This will go out for everybody else on the somethingth of November. If you want to hear episodes 2 weeks early, check us out at patreon.com/statcheck. Thank you, everybody, for being with us, and we will see you next time.